Everyone, welcome to our channel, Career LinkPod. We have Madhur Parashar on our podcast today, and we have already discussed our part one and posted a video on that. So Madhur is an immigration consultant working in this industry for a very long time. We have like a lot of things going on, Madhur, related to immigration, and we thought of bringing you back for the episode 3. And thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me here. I'm glad to continue this conversation.
So there are so many misconceptions going around, especially with international students that face questions regarding PR and immigration. We have some facts and myths related questions, and we thought of like if you can answer them and then just provide some your clear vision on that, it will be very, very helpful. I'll start with the question 1, and that is like a provincial nominee program, which is like PNPs, are only for people already working in that province.
So I would call that a myth because it's partially true, but mostly a myth. Provinces very strongly, very heavily prefer people who have some connection to that province. So, for example, Alberta will only consider people who have graduated from Alberta colleges, and the restrictions on people outside Alberta are higher. But people outside Alberta can still qualify if they have job offers in Alberta. Ontario has streams like human capital priorities, skilled trade stream, ExpressEntry, skilled French-speaking skilled worker stream. These streams are open to people from anywhere. In fact, human capital priority stream is open for people who are not even in Canada, and even overseas people are allowed, right? So it is entirely possible for people who are not in that province to immigrate to that province. But most provinces mostly have streams which prefer people from that province. But it's difficult but not impossible to get PNPs in provinces where you don't have a connection.
And then there is another question which comes, and every international student always comes with this question is like, oh, they are not eligible for Canadian healthcare insurance.
Okay, so I would call this a myth, but since it's not strictly an immigration related question, so I would defer this to some healthcare expert, but it is mostly a myth. Why? Because international students are supposed to come here with health insurance, private health insurance. They are supposed to enroll in their college's health insurance program, but every province has different rules, and most provinces at some point allow international students to transition to the provincial healthcare program. So yes, students, and eventually when they become workers, can look up the rules of their specific province and see if they're eligible. But it is mostly a myth that students cannot be on government health insurance plans. So, and again, most of these questions, just like the previous question, this is partly a myth and there is some truth to it.
Right. And then some PNP streams are tailored for international students even without work experience.
So again, true. This is a fact. Again, there is some gray area here. So for example, Ontario has an employer job offer stream for international students. BCPNP, British Columbia, has postgrad and doctoral streams, where if you graduate from from a certain list of courses in certain colleges, then you can apply directly for for PNP nomination in those provinces. And there, a work experience or job offer requirement is not there. Same in Ontario as well. So there are some provinces which encourage international students to apply directly, and the requirements are relaxed in those cases. Because provinces want to convert people who have studied or worked studied in that province. They see international students as valuable assets to convert. Earlier, even the Atlantic provinces and Manitoba and so on, they had those programs, but they have severely started cutting back on those programs. So at this point, some of those programs may be closed, but in general, provinces want to keep international students.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Another one is you can only work in your field of study while on a study permit or when you get your PGWP. Like you can only work in the same, like what you have studied. You like in the field of study, for example, you have done BA, like a business administration. So you're going to be specific around that field and not doing anything else. And you cannot like change your career path if you are on your work permit.
Oh, this is absolutely a myth. There is no gray area here. In the previous, it was 50-50. In this case, it's 100% a myth. First of all, the PGWP is an open work permit. Open work permit allows you to work in any profession for any employer. You can even multiple jobs, multiple employers. A closed work permit allows you to work only for specific occupation, specific employers. Right? So PGWP is an open work permit. While you are a student, you can work 24 hours if you're eligible off campus. Even there are no restrictions. Right? So in both of these cases, there are no restrictions on the field that it has to be related to your studies and so on. So yeah, it's a myth. You can work anything, but doesn't mean that you should work in anything. Right? You have to plan your career properly. You have to plan your future PR properly. In PGWP work permit period is the most valuable period where you can build Canadian high skilled work experience. You can build category based high demand occupation work experience. So yes, it's a myth that you can only work in that field, but try to work in some high skilled occupation related field.
Thank you for sharing that. And I have last one. That is only students in high demand professions, which is like healthcare, IT, they only qualify for permanent residency.
Again, 100% myth. So the last two, these are easy. So in some people think that only I have to be in some fancy white collar profession, like a doctor, lawyer, or healthcare IT in order to become a PR. In fact, right now, it is easier to get a PR as a blue collar worker, as a tradesperson, as an electrician, as a nurse. It is easier for those people to get a PR, and it's harder for some other white collar professions to get PR. So I was talking to somebody recently, and he told me that he's such a hotshot banker. He's worked in investment banking, private equity, MBA, finance, just like me. After a call, we realized that he does not have a pathway to PR, and he was shocked that, whereas, and on the other hand, a couple of months ago, I had a client who was working as a building maintenance worker. So a handyman, basically. He was the handyman in a residential condo building. When something breaks, you call him, he comes and fixes your whatever, and he got an OINP nomination, right? So the investment banker did not have a pathway to PR, but the building handyman did. Now, I'm not comparing the two professions and saying that one is better than the other. We have dignity of labor, all professions are equal. But the pathway to PR is easier for people in certain blue collar skilled trades profession. So people should not be under the impression, and people should not be chasing only those so-called prestigious jobs in order to get PR. Explore your options. Go into high demand professions. There is dignity of labor in this country. Take advantage of that. Get your welder's license. Get your driver's permit, and explore those careers.
Thank you so much, Madhur, for sharing all that. These were the questions. Actually, I went to one of the events and then I got like these many questions from so many international students. And I'm like, these are like a similar trend. I feel like it's a peer pressure. Like, one person talks and then the other person gets panicked and then it just flows in that way.
So that's why I always emphasize that it's very important to get information from the right sources, right?
Yeah.
of course, your number one source of information will be your peers. If you are an international student, your classmates will become your source of information. But you have to question, are they qualified to give you this advice? In most cases, they are not. And in many cases, the advice that itself comes from uh, random sources like YouTube and Reddit and Twitter and whatnot. Again, I would say I have been following a lot of YouTube and social media content on immigration. I will say confidently that about 70 to 80% of the content on social media about immigration is either wrong or incomplete. Like, I listen to all these influencers, immigration influencers, and my thought is, oh my god, these I hope nobody is listening to this because they're giving out wrong data. And then I watch and it's like 500,000 people have watched it. And so right now 500,000 people are walking with false information, and they're giving that false information to another 500,000. So there's a million wrong impressions out there, right? So it's very, very important where you get your information from, and whether that information is true and complete. And the other thing is, a lot of students come from countries where, the dignity of labor is not very high. So they look down upon people who are in blue collar jobs, who are in maintenance jobs, who are in trades job, driving, trucking, nursing. So and the elite jobs are banking, accounting, and so on. So because of that, they chase certain occupations. But Canada, the immigration process, the government does not think that way. So if you chase banking and then you come back to immigration, there may be no pathway. Whereas if you're flexible with your career pathways, then we can find something for you.
Thank you so much, Madhur, for sharing that. I also wanted to ask, so according to you, what's the right resource from where people should actually get and learn from it, and not from the social media influencer? So according to you, what are the right resources?
So first of all, of course, I say this with some hesitation because no resource, whether it's official or unofficial, is complete. Okay, it is impossible on any website to give complete knowledge. So the complete knowledge usually rests with professionals, but even some professionals have incomplete knowledge. So anyways, the right resource, I would say, are the official resources, right? So the government, the IRCC website is the official source. I will not say it is the complete source, because even the IRCC website omits so much information. So at least if you hear some nonsense on social media, at least you can go to that website. If it is there, it is true. If it's not there, it is not true. You can use that as the authoritative source. But now the problem is, sometimes the websites are not updated. Sometimes the websites are very confusing and difficult to understand. Every policy has links to 200 different policies, right? The government is not making those websites with the intention of educating you. It is not making that website with the intention of giving you complete guidance for how to get your application approved. The government has an obligation to disclose information. That's why they're putting it out there. They're trying to make it friendly, but it is not their job to make sure that you are guided step by step by step. It is not their job. Their job is to disclose so that they can say that legally we have disclosed all the information. After that, if you didn't click on some link to read some sub-chapter, sub-rule, that's your problem. Okay. The other thing is, a lot of knowledge comes from experience. It's not listed anywhere. Like, the person who was a banker and the person who was a building handyman, they cannot go to the website and say, oh, I'm a banker, what are my pathways, right? So it does not say that, hey, pursue these careers, this will lead to a better immigration outcome. Nothing. So you cannot, so even though the official website is a good source, it cannot personalize data for you. So yes, the source I would recommend is the government website, IRCC website, but don't be under the false impression that because you read the website, now you know what to do. So overestimating your knowledge is a dangerous thing. Okay, so that's one thing. The other source, you should verify whether the person you're working with is licensed. Foreign students, especially people who are coming from abroad, rely on a lot of ghost consultants. I don't like the term ghost consultants. They're unauthorized practitioners or they're illegal advisors. So they completely rely on those people. And believe me, those people don't even know what changes are going on. I spoke with an unlicensed person a few weeks ago. He had no idea. He had no idea about the latest Canadian immigration updates. I told them about spousal open work permits. They were like, "Oh, I had no idea," because they their focus is different. Their focus is to get commissions, make quick money. So they're giving a lot of false advice. So people are going to a lot of unlicensed, unauthorized, illegal practitioners and getting a lot of bad advice. So it's as important to know where to get your information and where to not get your information. And like I said, social media is full of clickbait. There are a lot of people who are every day, even today they're uploading content like, oh, 6 months, easy PR, no IELTS needed, no job offer needed, no nothing. No, it's nonsense. If there was such a pathway, believe me, I would know, and I would recommend it to my clients. I don't. So
I truly agree with you.
I saw today, this morning, I saw somebody today advertising, oh, if you have Canadian dreams, we can make them come true, 3 to 6 months. It's false. Okay. And a lot of recruiters offering LMIAs and job offers. We see fake job offers all the time. You won't believe this. Funny story. I saw a fake job offer today. The person already paid like, I think, $8,000 for that job offer. It was signed by HR, Canada. So apparently Canada has an HR manager, and the HR manager of Canada is issuing job offers. So, anyways, but the point is, okay, coming back to the sources, the number one source is the official government website and documents, but there are tens of thousands of pages there. Okay, and that is the official source. The number two official source, I would say, would be a licensed practitioner, like a consultant or a lawyer. If you want to do some pre-work before talking to a lawyer, you want to understand your pathways so that you can ask intelligent questions. You can refer to some social media channels and whatever. There are lawyers and consultants who are doing podcasts and YouTube channels. I have a YouTube channel where I give out useful videos. So at least if you have to go to social media, at least go to the social media of licensed people. But the problem there is those are not fun. I'll tell you, those are not entertaining. You know what is entertaining is a couple who moved to Canada. They bought their first house. They're making a fun entertainment video. In between, they're advising you on ExpressEntry. They're also advising you on PNP. They have no idea what they're talking about, but it's fun, right?
Yeah.
A lawyer making a YouTube video or a consultant like me making a YouTube video is very boring. I will look at the camera and I will just talk to you about the law, about the rules, about the sections. And my video is 10 times more useful than the couple's video, and it's more accurate. But people will go there because that's more fun, more entertaining. I saw TikTok videos on immigration where people are dancing while telling immigration advice. Like, what is going on? I will tell students, and I will, and those influencers have like millions of hits. Whereas I saw one poor lawyer who was giving such solid advice. I follow him on TikTok, like 24 views. So I'm just so sad seeing the state of affairs. So I will tell people, yes, go to social media, but within social media, go to the right people. Use the social media knowledge to ask intelligent questions to an immigration professional. Verify what the immigration professional said with the official websites of the government. And that's how you collate a comprehensive body of knowledge. And don't overestimate your own skills. Don't do too much DIY because there's a lot that you don't know. And you don't know that you don't know that. Right? So don't overestimate your abilities. For example, when a government publishes a policy on a website, it is just like 4 paragraphs, one web page. But there is something called enforcement manuals. There is something. There are policy documents. There are hundreds of pages of PDF. The officers rely on those documents. Those are practice documents. They will use those documents to judge your application. Nobody has read that except practitioners. Right. So even if you read that one web page and think you understood everything, those documents, program delivery instructions, that's what they're called. Those may have been updated, giving officers new rules. Right? Government may have issued new rules to specific visa branches. They may issue new rules to New Delhi branch, to Pakistan branch, to New Delhi, to Manila branch. Right? They may give instructions specific to those consulates, which you may not know about, and they will not publish it on their website. So, yes, these are the sources, but no sources complete. Talk to a real person.
Thank you so much, Madhur. I cannot emphasize more what you just said. That's the reason actually we thought of bringing you here, because Subin has told a lot about you regarding the kind of immigration posts and the value you provide to the people. I feel like the audience should reach to the right people and the right resource, and not just what you said before, like the couple blocks. So I thank you so much for sharing that. Moving forward, go into the deeper section of the immigration and what actually is happening around Canada, and not just the actual dance videos. So thank you.
And there are two things to any content. Any content that we even lawyers and consultants, when we produce a content, there are two parts to it. One is general information. The second is legal advice. Okay. General information says Ontario has a program where, under these criteria, they will issue an PNP invite, blah, blah, blah. That's general information. And then there is legal advice, meaning, do I qualify for this program? Or, hey, I applied under this stream, I got a rejection, what should I do? Right? So whenever there is a specific query, suppose here's the rule. If your question starts with I, it's legal advice. Okay. So if your question starts with, is this a myth or a fact? What are the streams available? That's general information. And then there's personal advice. Lawyers and immigration consultants are not allowed to give legal advice on social media or in general. Like, I cannot go on YouTube and if you call me on a live chat and you say, hey, I applied for this work permit was denied, what should I do? We're not allowed to answer your questions like that. Why? Because we have not signed a contract with you. You are not our client. We have not understood your background, your specific documents, your specific situation. So any information that we give you, like if I say, oh yeah, in this case, go do this, and then you get into trouble, right? In that case, because I didn't know 10 other things about you, which would have changed my answer, right? So according to our code of conduct, according to the official regulations, we are not allowed to do that. We are only allowed to give legal advice, personalized legal advice to people who are our clients, who have booked a consultation call with us, who have signed a contract agreement with us. Then we can give you specific guidance. So even in terms of information sources, even when we give out information on LinkedIn, on YouTube, it is still general information. Use that to understand the system, but you cannot rely on that advice to go do specific things. For that, you have to come to us, schedule a consultation, become a client, sign an agreement, file an application with us. Then we take care of you on a personal basis. So that is a distinction that a lot of people don't make. They say, oh, Madhur said on YouTube video that you can apply this. I went and applied this. It failed. 1-star review. That it doesn't matter. Like, you can give us all the star reviews you want. It's your application that gets screwed, right? So that's a distinction that most people are not making, but they should.
That's true. I would like to say to our viewers that it's always a subjective and it's always case by case basis. So always a good
Correct.
idea to understand your needs and wants and then reflect in that direction.
Absolutely. Everything in immigration, everything is personal. There
Yeah.
are no two cases that are alike. You
Yeah.
think your PGWP application is so straightforward. Yesterday, I talked to somebody who was refused for PGWP. Why? Because they dropped out of a course in their first year. So they did not maintain full-time status. PGWP refused. Now,
Wow.
that person spent
Can be
8.
so strict.
It is very strict. Look, because according to the latest immigration level plans, they are planning to kick out 1.2 million people out of the country by next year. Okay. And by kick out, I don't mean like deportation and all. It just
Yeah.
means that when their status expires,
Yeah.
there's no pathway forward. Okay. So they are getting very aggressive in refusing applications. Smallest mistakes, the application gets kicked out. They say, okay, who's next? Earlier, they used to be kind of soft. If something was missing, an officer will email you or drop you a letter and, hey, you're missing this. Can you get back to that? In my own PR application, when I moved to Canada, my application was missing some documents. There was an officer who emailed me personally. This is mind blowing. It never happens now, but this was like 4 or 5 years ago, and they were like, "Hey, your document is missing." Oh, so I said, "Oh, sorry. Here's the attachment." They're like, "Okay, thanks," and then they processed my application. Today, impossible. It's never going to happen. If it's missing, you get kicked out. If
Yeah.
they look at your study records, they're like, "Oh, you dropped out of one course. You were not full time. No PGWP. 80K wasted. Go back home." Right. So things are getting pretty messy. And so, 2 students. So this guy told me that, oh, but my friend's PGWP got approved. Well, maybe the friend did not drop out of the course. You dropped out of the course, right? So, same college, same person. They were friends in India. Everything's same. But this guy dropped out of the course. So every application is extremely, extremely personal and specific to that person.
Thank you so much, Madhur. I'll also would like to, if you can share some insights on what are the future changes or trends coming in Canadian immigration policy, which people should be aware of.
Sure. So the biggest change has been announced recently. That's the immigration levels plan. So every year, Canadian government updates the next 3 years plan for immigration. So they say, okay, based on the economy, based on the public perception, whatever, in the next 3 years, we will accept these many immigrants for PR and temporary status. So according to the latest updates, the immigration targets have been cut for the next 3 years, which means fewer spots for PR. So because of that, far more people will not be able to get PR and far more people will not be able to extend their statuses. So that is one of the big trend that is coming. A lot of people will go out of status. They will have to leave the country. If they don't, then they will be illegal in the country. Okay. The government in the same immigration levels plan, they have said that there will be more in Canada focus for PRs. That means they will conduct more CEC draws or Canadian Experience Class draws. So they will emphasize people who are in Canada, convert them from temporary to permanent status. So the number of CEC draws will increase. Because of that, the CRS cutoff score for CEC might start declining. A lot of people are thinking, oh, because of that, the scores will drop below 500, 490, 480. That's not going to happen. I'm seeing a lot of YouTube, TikTok, where, scores are going to come down in 2025 for 490, 480. Absolutely not. Scores will come down to some extent. If LMIA changes, if the points for LMIAs are removed, then again scores will come down. So there is, despite all the bad news, there is some good news that in Canada workers, might have an easier time converting to PR in 2025. The occupation categories are being reduced a lot. So there used to be 6 categories. Officially, there are still 6 categories: STEM, transport, agriculture, healthcare, and French, and all that. They have latest notes indicate that only trades, healthcare, and French categories will go forward. So healthcare, so STEM category will go away. They will not do STEM specific draws anymore. They may not do transport and agriculture specific draws anymore. So people who've been waiting with STEM experience, they might be very disappointed. There has not been a STEM draw in 6 months. There may not be one in the next 1 year. So the categories are going to be reduced to these 3 categories. The emphasis on French is going to go up. So a lot more French language speaking draws will happen. By the way, if you're a temporary resident, you want to get PR in Canada, just learn French. I'm saying just learn French as if it's easy. It's not easy. It will take 1.5 to 2 years. But if you want a so-called shortcut, there is no better pathway than French. And in 2025, 26, 27, that is going to continue. The next thing is, like I said, SOWP changes. Spousal open work permits are going to change. So people who are only in certain HNOC codes, tier level 0, tier level 1, only their spouses might be eligible for an open work permit. Students who are in master's courses or PhD courses or in-demand courses, only their spouses might be eligible for spousal open work permits. So some people, they strategize like, okay, I will be a student, wife will be a worker, wife will gain Canadian experience, she will get PR, then I'll get PR as a dependent. So that strategy might not work out going forward, right? So they might decide that, okay, that strategy is not going to happen. So maybe wife can stay in India. I will get my PR, then I'll sponsor her. So the strategies have to be adjusted accordingly, right? Then new pilots around childcare, elderly caregivers will be introduced very soon. In those immigration level plans, childcare and elderly caregiver programs, there is a big allocation for that. So that's an important thing that's coming down. LMIA points might be taken away, like I said. The number of visa refusals is going up already, and it will continue to go up. Study visa refusals are high, and they are picking any and every reason to deny people. In fact, a lot of decisions on visitor visas are based on AI. So they're using this AI system, artificial intelligence system called Chinook. So this is an AI program that automatically analyzes a visa application, decides that this application should probably be refused, and then it puts them in a bucket, and an officer just goes in there and says, yeah, refuse, and they hardly apply their brain. So because of that, I mean, they are supposed to look at the AI recommendation and then decide whether AI answer is true or not. Like if you get an answer in Chat GPT, you'll still think, is this answer correct? Yeah. And then, so same thing, officer is supposed to use Chinook and decide whether they should actually refuse it or not. But these days we are seeing officers are not applying their brains. If AI says refuse, they refuse it. So, and the AI is making a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
So what you should do in this case is file a JR or a judicial review, which means you are taking IRCC to court. You're filing a lawsuit saying your decision is wrong and you're challenging them in court. And the court will decide whether the decision is wrong and whether you should be approved or not, right? So the court doesn't decide whether you should be approved. They send it back for a re-review. So people should be prepared to file lawsuits against IRCC. It sounds scary, but it's not. It's a regular process to file a lawsuit. So the lawsuits against IRCC for such decisions will increase going forward. And the other thing that will happen in the future is external, like foreign citizens moving directly to Canada on a PR is going to go down so badly. Like earlier, look, when I moved, I didn't have a Canadian education. I didn't have a Canadian work experience. Nothing. I was sitting in the US. I applied to Canada in ExpressEntry. I got in. I came. Right. a direct foreign person coming to Canada as a PR. That is going to become almost impossible in 2025 because the government is focusing on Canadian applicants. The cutoff scores are so high. So for somebody who's sitting outside, they don't want to get Canadian education or experience, just want to come as a PR, that's going to be almost impossible. And finally, I would say enforcement is going to increase. Enforcement meaning if you are using false documents, if you're using fake bank documents, if you are lying on your applications, if you're using ghost consultants, like unlicensed, illegal consultants, if you're applying on if they are applying on your behalf, IRCC and CBSA are going to start taking strong actions against such people. So be extremely careful be very truthful. Don't work with ghost consultants. Don't work with illegal practitioners, because sooner or later, IRCC is going to start coming after those people, and they will start filing misrepresentation charges. Misrepresentation is a very, very serious charge. It bans you from coming to Canada for 5 years. And even after those 5 years, you will not be approved. The ban is lifted, but you will still be prevented from coming. Not just to Canada, but to other countries also. And then finally, I would say refugee asylum seeker claims will go up a lot, because all these millions of people who are losing status, they don't want to go back home. So they'll start filing a lot of fake refugee and asylum cases. I would never recommend filing a fake claim just to stay here, because there are a lot of consequences and repercussions for filing a claim, even for filing a real claim. But for filing a fake claim, it gets much worse. So that's another topic we could talk about for 2 hours. But those are the trends I'm seeing in the coming years.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Madhur, for sharing all this. These are really great learning insights, what you have shared. Very few people on social media shares all this actual relevant information. So thank you for sharing that.
People are so casual about refugee claims. They're like, all these ghost consultants, unlicensed people are like, oh, your status is expiring, you don't have PNP, you don't have ExpressEntry, file a refugee claim, you'll get an open work permit.
I have seen that. I've seen those videos.
Let me tell you the first thing that happens when you file a refugee claim. The first thing that happens is they take your passport. That's it. They take away, the government takes away your passport the minute you file a refugee claim. Until your refugee claim is resolved, it takes 4 to 5 years. Based on current backlogs, you will not have a passport. You cannot travel, you cannot go out. So life without a passport, and you will not be eligible for any economic immigration program. No PNP, no ExpressEntry, no PR is available to a refugee applicant. So people think, oh, if you file a refugee claim, you get an open work permit for 5 years. You don't have a passport during that time. You're not eligible for any ExpressEntry or PNP. People don't know this. And then these are just the top 2 things. And then there are another 20 things. You will never get a visa again if your claim fails. You will never get a visa again to US, UK, Australia, New Zealand. Once it is on your record that you filed a refugee claim, you're not going abroad ever again. So it is not something that you can just casually file. So but a lot of people are encouraging each other to file it.
Yeah. So I see like you have already explained in our previous conversation about the opportunities or challenges students are facing, but can you tell me more about that? Can you tell us more about what all kind of specific challenges international students and workers are going to face in the coming years?
So lots of challenges are going to happen, some of which I already touched upon. So one of the challenges, we'll take that in order. First of all, the timelines are going to be extremely stretched out. So what used to take a month, 2 months, 3 months earlier is now stretching out to 3 to 6 months. So there itself, if you have not planned in advance, you're going to face a lot of frustration. For example, some people, they say, okay, I'm going to join the fall semester or September semester in this. they get all the documents ready, they gather all the proof of funds, and they apply for a study permit in July.
Right.
If you apply for a study permit in July for September, your visa is not going to come through in time. Okay, so then what happens if you applied in July, college starts in September, your visa has not come through? Then what do? You have to defer your intake to the next semester, right? Maybe winter. So then when the visa comes through, then it will be issued based on the prior it will be issued based on September plus 1 year or 2 years, whatever your course length is. But you started late, right? You started here, which means you'll have to apply for a study permit extension here.
Right.
And then study permit extension can take a very long time. Study permit extension can get denied. So because you did not apply properly here, and because the timeline took too long, so your everything in the future got complicated.
Yeah.
Right? Study permit extensions might get complicated. So because of these timelines and processing delays, that is going to be a huge challenge for workers. If your work permit is expiring on a certain day, LMIA and processing time is 9 months, and work permit processing time is 4 to 6 months. If you did not plan, you're going to go out of status. If your LMIA is not yet approved and you apply for your closed work permit, that work permit is going to get refused. You will fall out of status. You cannot work anymore until it is approved. If you convert to a visitor record during that time, then, and then apply for a work permit, you cannot apply for a work permit from inside Canada. You'll have to leave the country or do a flag polling where the chances of refusal are very high. So then, because of those timelines getting stretched, now you may have to return to your home country and lose the ability to work. So these are all the ways in which processing delays are going to create a huge challenge. The second thing is the refusals. These days, you have to apply so much well in advance that even if you get refused, you still have a chance to reapply. So, and if you get refused, you should immediately file for a reconsideration request, or you should be prepared to file a judicial review or a lawsuit and pursue that. So you have to be prepared for that. So refusals are going to be a huge challenge going forward. IRCC officers are not going to give you second chances. If something is missing, they will refuse that application most probably. So those refusals are going to be a challenge. Then the landscape is changing very, very rapidly. A lot of programs that were supposed to be open, they suddenly shut down. So, for example, the Prince Edward Island episode that just happened, people moved there thinking that they're going to pursue certain streams, and then the province shut down those streams. Right? So the same, and that's why all those protests started. I don't know if you guys tracked it. There were so many student protests going on there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they moved there, and then those programs changed. They shut down those programs. They said, "Oh, we are full. We are not taking any more applications." So these rapid, sudden policy shifts are going to have a problem. If IRCC makes a policy change, usually they grandfather in the previous people. So if they say, okay, no more spouse permits for diploma students, usually it is going forward. No new students will get those spouse permits. But they say, okay, if you're an existing student, fine, your spouse will still get permit. So IRCC tends to grandfather older people in, right? But provinces don't. Provinces just shut down their program and say everybody else go home, right? So that's going to be another challenge, that you plan for certain streams and then those streams change. So that's going to be a pretty challenging thing. And then, of course, the usual challenges: cutoff scores are so high. Will I get my PR? Just lack of documentation, working with bad, unlicensed, illegal consultants, misrepresentation, and just generally getting bad information from all these social media sources. that's going to create more challenges. So I see a lot of challenges for people, and honestly, the government is looking to remove 1 million people. Okay, they are going to take every possible chance to remove those 1 million people. Okay,
Yeah.
so there is no, you don't have any friends in IRCC. They may not be your enemies, but they're not your friends, right? So that's the biggest challenge there.
Thank you so much, Madhur. Over to you, Subin.
I had a few questions actually, but I believe you have already answered these in the part one and part two. Basically, the key takeaways which the international students or maybe the future prospect people who are looking to come to Canada would be needed to have a more focused approach. But I believe you already mentioned that to plan advance, have a better person who you can trust rather than being only on social media or maybe YouTubers. Have proper consultants for your help, uh, to have a better track on what you're actually planning to do within Canada, rather than just trying to be a person who comes to Canada and then tries to figure out what you want to do. So, is there something else you want to share or maybe add on to these apart from what you have already shared?
Yeah, so have a backup strategy. Okay, so have a backup strategy within Canada and outside Canada. What I really mean by that is, a backup strategy within Canada means that if this pathway does not work out for me, then I will pursue this other pathway. So, for example, that the client that I keep talking about, he's one of my favorite clients. He started out in one. His wife came as a student. He started gathering a Canadian experience. Then he jumped into a profession. Then he saw that ONP was not conducting draws into that profession, so he switched to a different profession, and he got work experience in that one. And then ONP conducted a draw. He got an invite. Right. So have that backup plan inside
Right.
Canada. If this doesn't happen, I will do this. If that doesn't happen, I will go back to school. I will study again, and so on. Right. So even after coming to Canada, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Have a backup plan. The second thing is have a backup plan outside Canada. Meaning, if nothing works out, if I have to go back to India or China or wherever, then what will my life be after that? Right? Will I uh, will I take back enough knowledge and skills to resume my career there? Right? Will I go back with tens of thousands of dollars of loans, which will make my life even worse than what it was? Right? Even if I go back, will I still have a chance to come back to Canada? Right? So, by the way, people think that going back to their home country is like the worst thing. Like their Canadian dream is over if they have to go back. That is absolutely false. There are so many of our clients whom I told them, go back to your home country, start working there, get more work experience there. Your points will go up. You already have Canadian experience. You go back home and you add more foreign work experience, your points will go up. In fact, when you go abroad, go back to your home country, you work in specific professions so that you will fall under certain draws, and then you can come back. And those people came back as PRs, right? So it's because we made a specific strategy for them to go back to their backup option in their home country and then come back. So having a backup option in Canada and having a backup option outside Canada, both will help. And the backup option could also include whether I should come to Canada at all or not.
Right.
Right? Maybe your chances are better in the US. Maybe your chances are better in Australia or New Zealand or UK. Right? So all of those things need to be taken into account. So again, planning, lots and lots of planning. These days we have so many tools and so much information, but people are just not planning. People are spending more time planning which laptop or which smartphone they should buy, and literally they're not spending time planning which college or which country they should attend. Like that's going to impact your entire life till you're retired. That's going to impact you, right? What country you choose. But nothing. They just walk into some ghost consultant's office. They tell them The consultant will give you, will recommend a college or a country to you where they get the maximum commission. Okay,
Yeah.
They don't care about your future. Like once you get on the flight, you are gone. Right? So their interest is not aligned with yours. The second thing I will tell you is a lot of these overseas consultants, they offer free services, right? So people are obsessed with free. So here's a very interesting thought. Somebody told me this. I read it somewhere. If a service is free, it means you are the product. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So if somebody is offering you a free service, you are the product. Look, LinkedIn is free, right? We get beautiful features on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. They're all free.
Yeah.
Why? Because you are the product. Your personal data, the advertisements they send to you, the discounts they send to you, that is the product. The same way, when these consultants offer you free immigration services, free education counseling, you are the product. Meaning that they will make money on you by selling you to specific institutions. Right? All these big aggregator platforms, they make money by guiding you to the place where they get the maximum profit. Right? So whereas a consultant who doesn't make money from those commissions, right, who makes money purely from the fees that you pay them, right, that person is working for you. That person is not working for the college. So in our case, we don't take commissions. In like our guidance is motivated. We charge our clients a fee. We guide them for that fee. So our interest is aligned with your success. If we were getting paid by somebody else, we'll take care of them first, right? So that's why be willing to pay for quality services. If you are paying for free services, you are being misled. Okay, so those are kind of the challenges, the things that people should take care of. Planning well in advance, relying on the right sources of information, and working with consultants who are reputed and whose incentive and fee is aligned with you. Okay, there's one very interesting thing I'll tell you about, which I recently noticed. It's unrelated to your question, but I'll say it. These days, a lot of people are relying on AI apps, ChatGPT. Okay, so what is my NOC code? What is my there's a lot of reliance on these random NOC and on these AI apps. Yesterday, I came across a client who said my NOC code is 70000. Okay, operations manager, and I was very curious, and I thought, what is going on? And I looked it up, and there is no NOC code called 7000. So these apps are generating fake data, and if you put that on your application, you're going to lose out. So this again goes back to being very selective about what apps you use and what sources you get your information from.
What are the sources, as we have already mentioned about IRCC being a source where you can find some information relevant to your immigration? How will we identify if a consultant, immigration consultant, or a lawyer is authentic or reliable? What are the traits, or maybe is there a number we have to look up for, maybe the license number, where we can look up for those license number?
Exactly. So it is extremely important that before you start working with a consultant or a lawyer, you verify that they are authentic. Mm-hmm. So every immigration consultant is regulated by a body called CICC. So that is the regulatory body that governs all the consultants. We have to be licensed with a license issued by that consultant. So my license, you can see right here. So so the body maintains a database of all its licensed consultants. So if you just search for find a licensed consultant, just Google find a licensed consultant, it will lead you to a website for CICC. Okay. In CICC, find a consultant section. You can search for licensed consultants. There are various parameters you can search by their. If you already have a consultant or you want to know, you can type their search by first name, search by last name, search by location, zip code, um, or you can find all the consultants in a particular geography. Also, every consultant is assigned a license number. So it's usually a 7-digit code. So mine is R712625. So ask your consultant what is your license number. Most of them will publish it on their website. So you can just search the CICC database using that license number. If it comes out that this person is licensed, then they are. And they can also, their history of actions against those consultants are also listed. So for example, if the consultant had committed any fraud or there was any complaints against them or CICC took any action against that consultant, that is also listed there. So you can see their history if this person has a consistent, honest record. So yeah, that's where you can find the consultant. Similarly, for law societies, every state, every province has their own law society, which licenses the lawyers in that province. So, for example, Law Society of Ontario, Law Society of British Columbia, they list the lawyers that are licensed under in that province. So you can search there as well. So before you start an engagement, you should feel free to ask your consultant, or like, what is your license number? Or just look up with their name. And if you don't find their name in the database, then ask them, hey, I didn't find you. What's going on? Like, what's your license number? Verify. Here's another catch. A lot of illegal consultants, what they do is they either they claim that they fake the identity of some other consultant who's licensed, or they say that we work under that consultant or we have a collaboration with that consultant. So they are operating a small shop. There is this big consultant in Canada who is licensed, and they will be handling your files. We are just a sales office. Your file will be handled by this. In most cases, that does not happen. So this office, just the local office, does all the work. They file it. They just claim that they're working with a licensed consultant. So there you should dig in even further. You should ask them, okay, if this is the office, can I talk to that consultant? Because that is the consultant who is handling your file, right? So you should be able to talk to them. How can I reach that consultant? What happens if I have some complaint? If you ask those questions, you will realize that consultant is just putting his name on this company's website, right? Just to and charge some money for that. And actually, there's no relationship or nothing is happening. The local office is just running its own shop, running its own scams. So just because a company puts some random consultant's ID or photo on their website does not mean that you are necessarily working directly with such a consultant. So I would advise people to first look up your lawyer or consultant in the database website, verify if they're authentic. Even if you're overseas or working through some company that is claiming to have an affiliation, test it. See, ask them, can I talk to that consultant? What responsibility will he handle? Do I have consultations with him? Will he submit it through his portal? Everything. And you will very quickly realize that in most of those cases, it's the relationship is not authentic. So in those cases, avoid those people. The best thing is schedule a consultation directly with us, talk to us face to face. All my clients talk to me directly. Right? We don't have branches, affiliates, and all. That's the ideal arrangement that you should be looking for.
Right. Yeah. I think you have given a lot of information, and I would really appreciate and thank you for your time. Unfortunately, Ayushi had to drop due to the electricity issue, but she also said to me to say a big thanks for all the information you have shared in this podcast, which is helpful not only for us to know more about these kind of changes, but also for everyone listening to this podcast. And I believe the key takeaway from this is always plan ahead, have a backup plan, and have the right networks. So
Absolutely.
I would urge everyone listening to this to follow these steps, and hopefully you will also have the right path for you. Once again, thank you, Madhur, for your time, and thank you for all the help you have given us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate your invitation, and you guys are doing a great job educating your listeners about immigration, career, and all these things.
Thanks
Thank you.
again.